there's a situation outside of my control. I just did what I could to survive the encounter because I didn't know, how it was going to end for me after I realized, him going for his waistband.
How certain were you that you had to react the way you did?
There was nothing else I could do. I was back in the corner. I tried to leave. I tried my hardest to get an understanding. I seen him reaching for his, waistband where I know that there's, multiple amounts of weapons that could be used to cause, me harm or death. And being in this situation, I'm not sure how people, how other people would react. But in my perception, I felt that this was the only option I have after I tried everything else. There was no other effort that I could have put into walking away safely. And that was the best thing I could have did to preserve, my being.
And you said crackers and their power on speaking to them. You didn't care, right?
I'm talking about the people of Instagram who have the power to shut down my Instagram.
Is Instagram a bunch of crackers?
I'm not sure if it is, but
You refer to that as law enforcement officers, crackers.
No, sir.
Okay. Well, you refer to law enforcement as a case, don't you?
No, sir. When I say the word pigs, I'm not specifically always talking about police officers.
What's she talking about?
I'm talking about people who don't see me as human.
If you read it, it progresses. You were going to get banned because you were posting about killing police officers. And he said, you better watch out. He needs you to be out there, bro. He still needs you to be around. And then you say, I don't care. I'm going to post what I want to post.
It's not true.
Well, why did you write that?
Because Instagram monitors, and I'm frustrated with them. So I'm just referring to them specifically.
So when you say, I hope you're listening, brother, you just don't know how close I am. What, are you close to canceling your Instagram account?
Yes.
All right. Peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High. And you just heard part of the testimony of Othal Wallace back in 2023. In 2021, Othal was accused of shooting a Daytona Beach police officer in an encounter where he felt, as you heard on the stand, that he was in fear for his life. Now, Othal has since been convicted. They charged him with first-degree murder, but the jury returned a conviction of the lesser charge of manslaughter in the third degree. Now, I'm going to show you the interaction which led to this, but I'm also going to give you some background on Othal Wallace and his activism in the community, as well as I'm going to let our brother Kenyon really describe who Othal was, who the officer was that he allegedly shot, and why Othal is wrongfully imprisoned for this act. But just watch this video. This is going to show you the encounter which led to the death of the officer and the imprisonment of our brother Othal.
How's it going? Do you live here?
What's going on?
Sit down. Sit.
Sir.
Can you sit down? I'll talk to you.
Okay,
Stop.
no, come on now.
Sit.
Come on now. Don't do this.
Sit down.
Why are you asking me do I live here?
Do you live here? Yes or no?
What's going on though?
Who? Charlie 77.
No, back up.
Stop, man.
And there you see the brief interaction between Othal and the police officer. Now, Othal was sitting outside of his apartment complex, and this officer used the guise of looking for a suspicious vehicle to run up on Othal. Now, Othal tried to get out of the car and tried to be not accosted by the officer. And you see the officer pushing him. He actually grabbed him by his neck. And then the ensuing struggle, Othal said the officer reached for his waistband. Now, we've heard many officers use that claim, hey, he was reaching for something, and therefore they used deadly force. In this case, our brother Othal felt like, as he testified, that the officer was going to do something to him, and that was the only means he had to protect himself after trying to leave from the situation. Right. And so this officer died in the ensuing struggle. Othal went on the run for a short time and then was later captured. And then he was brought to trial in 2023. About 2 years after the incident happened. But I'm going to let our brother Kenyon, shout out to Kenyon, and this is fair use, by the way. He's going to really break down the intricate details of the case and of the officer who was known for being rogue, using excessive force, and was actually suspended 2 days before the encounter. So he actually should not have been practicing law enforcement, if that's a thing. Just watch this video.
Trayvon Martin, Tyree Nichols, James Byrd. These are just a few of the names that come to mind when we think about and talk about racist police and racist people in general. And I don't know if y'all remember what happened to James Byrd, but they found his body in parts after being drugged
truck and dragged for nearly
behind
3
a truck
miles in the East Texas
in
city.
Jasper, Texas. And this is the backdrop in which we think of our brother Ozone's case. Our brother was at his home, just coming home from his little girl's birthday party. And he was accosted by a police officer who, at every step of the way, showed that he should have never have been an officer of the law. But our brother was approached by this man, just turning night. So in a parking lot. A lot of times you'll hear from the media, the news media, try to paint it as some kind of traffic stop, like he was out in traffic somewhere. That's not true. He was at home, his car was parked, and he wasn't doing a thing wrong. So this officer comes up to him out of nowhere in the middle of the night.
How's it going? Do you live here?
And just simply says,
Do you live here?
do you live here? And for those of you who have actually seen the video, you know that our brother appeared startled when he came up, just like anybody would when some stranger accosts you in the middle of the night. And you know how some police officers like to do and pop up on you.
Sir.
But when he asked him, do you live here?
Come on now.
His startledness
Why you asking me?
turned to worry because, like, what's going on? That's what he said to the officer. What's going on? Why are you asking me? Sir, why are you asking me who I live?
Come on now. Don't do this. Sit down.
But instead of answering our brother,
What's going on though?
as a reasonable person would, the officer got a little bit more aggressive.
Stop. Stop.
He starts to put his hands on Brother Othal and try to demand him like some type of animal,
Stop.
like a dog,
Stop.
and tell him to sit.
Sir.
Can you sit down and fuck it?
Steadily pushing him back into Othal's vehicle.
Stop, man.
And Othal begged with him, pleaded with him, sir, please don't do
Can you
this.
sit down and fuck it? Stop.
Why are you asking me,
Come on now.
do I live
Sit
here?
down.
Why you asking me do I live there?
Now, the thing is, Othal knows his rights.
But I also do know my rights.
Some people may say,
I felt that I
well, why didn't he just
to leave.
do what the officer told him to do?
Othal Wallace doesn't have to give him an answer.
He didn't have to. Othal wanted to go home. So he just politely tried to get away from the officer, which was within his right to do.
How's it going?
And the officer
here?
started to grab him by the collar of his neck. Now, one thing I should tell you about this officer before we is that we're talking about a man who had been written up over 10 times for excessive use of force. We're talking about somebody who was just suspended days before this incident for using excessive force on a female person.
Oh, no.
We even have video of him somebody's head in.
Spit it out.
This is who we're talking about. We're talking about an officer who had no education, didn't go to anybody's college, and the only training he had before waking up to decide he wanted to be a police officer is as a dishwasher and a cook. This is a part of the problem in this country. You cannot bring us uneducated, improperly trained individuals and say that they're going to enforce law. They're going to have the right of life and death in their hands. So this officer's track record on the job was not that good. Even on his application, he wrote his purpose was to get money. His own father testified at the sentencing hearing that
After passing
he
the
failed
academy,
the licensing exam to be an officer 3 or 4 times.
after 3 times taking the exam.
So how was he even able to be on the Daytona Beach police force is beyond me. So this is who we have that night approaching our brother.
How's it going?
Not only
You
that,
live here?
After he was
but
shot,
his own fellow officers stated at trial
and what Jason said that that moment was
Rainer
careful,
thought he
I
was
might
going to
have
die
AIDS.
anyway. He was taking medication for a serious illness that for some people, and there was a whole epidemic about it, it would kill him. So when you talk about a person's state of mind as these incidents unfold this fateful night, June 23rd, 2021, one can't help but wonder what the hell was on Rainer's mind that night.
How do we?
So here he is with our brother. Grabs him by the collar. And what we end up finding out through the trial proceedings from our brother's own mouth
But when his
is that as he tried to slip away from Rainer's grip
and
on him,
it's full in motion. So when his
he
hand
saw
moved,
Rainer
he started to
reach for a weapon.
movements towards his waistband, and I was
Now, I started this conversation saying a few names for a reason. Because too many times in this country, we have had to deal with individuals being killed by racist persons or racist cops. Throughout the history of our turmoil dealing with this government.
And I'm going to stop it right there. That should give you a little bit of insight on the case. Now, keep in mind, once again, the brother was convicted in 2023. The jury convicted him of the lesser charge of manslaughter. And they actually wanted the least sentence possible, which was 10 years. However, they gave him a gun enhancement, which actually moved the sentence up to 30 years against, some of even the DA's and the judge's wishes. However, our brother is currently serving that sentence, but he is also raising funds to appeal the case. And once again, shout out to my brother Y2 Kenyon. That video was from his page. I'm using that video in fair use because it gives an in-depth look at the officer who had a track record of police brutality, who barely passed the test, who reportedly had a debilitating disease and had been written up for even losing his badge. And this officer at the time was 26. He had been on the force, I think, since 2016, and the incident happened in 2021. So 29-year-old Othal then went on trial, and you heard the prosecutors try to use some of his social media language to paint him as some sort of animal. But if I'm not mistaken, he was a member of the NFAC formerly, and I think at the time of this incident, He was a member of the New Black Panther Party, if I'm not mistaken, but he was very active in the community, very active standing up, for people's rights themselves. So this incident, once again, as the brother was saying, a lot of times black men don't survive those situations. Why? Because the officer somehow fears for his life. So when the situation is in reverse, Othal Wallace, felt for his life, and he did what he had to do, as he stated in the trial, to protect his being. And so I just wanted to share this case because I never heard of the case before somebody told me about it. Once again, this happened in 2023. And so the brother is still going through litigation. He has a great support system. You've seen the website, othal.org, where you can go find out more about the case, even make donations, and try to help this brother once again gain his freedom and get back to his family. And as always, y'all see the number down below, 919-587-7782. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Thanks for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. And most of all, peace and blessings.